When he set off on his car journey of 1,600 miles from one end of the country to the other, Claude was full of ambition. This tour was to be the culmination of 15 years of work on his unique colour system. Claude charmed his close friend, Robin Hayworth Booth, into helping him. Robin's family owned a Vauxhall D-Type, well suited for long-distance driving, and Claude convinced Robin to accompany him on a momentous journey that would stretch over 3 years and cost hundreds of pounds. So his friend Robin drove, while Claude did the camera work. I will be following their route, in the same type of Vauxhall. Claude called his collection of silent short films The Open Road, a title which captures the joyous freedom of car touring in that era. Claude's adventurous journey took him past 150 places, from mountaintops to bustling cities. Along the way, he filmed these faces of grown-ups and children belonging to a bygone era. On my journey, I'm hoping to track down some of these people or their descendants. That's your mother?
That's my mother. Look at her posing. Oh dear. And that's Helen, our friend.
The wonderful
Yes,
parasol.
the parasol. I can remember playing with it when I was a child.
Lovely. Claude's first location was just 3 miles from his starting point at Land's End. It's a tiny place called Lamorna Cove, where he filmed a local artist at work. The Cornish light has always been a draw for artists, and maybe this was the case for Claude. He wanted to show off his colour process, particularly going for the reds and greens. Redheads, of course, were a particular winner. I discovered that the painter Claude caught at his easel was Samuel John Birch, from the famous Newlyn School of Cornish artists. He was so smitten with the Cove that he adopted Lamorna as his first name and used this to sign his paintings. Living in exactly the same spot is his grandson Adam Kerr. I went to ask him what he knew about Claude's film of his grandfather. Well, we're pretty sure this was taken, this footage, in the summer of 1924, and here's a little title put on the film by Claude, Lamorna Cove, a beauty spot of the British Riviera. That's interesting.
Right. Ah, now that's so clearly my grandfather.
Oh, indeed.
His looks and everything he wore, and
his tweed,
his waistcoat. Yes, that's right.
And shirt and tie on, very good.
Oh well, the artists of those days did.
Respectable looking fellows. Yeah.
The painting that he's working on doesn't look like it's the painting here because there's none of this big high rock on the side.
Claude
there.
sort of set this up a bit then. He's not actually painting, but he's looking at beauty of Shingle Cliff and more.
Again, now there we go. Cliff Cottage right on the edge here, and now you're reaching away to Carndew, the black headland down there. This wall is new that you see in front of us now. It just used to go over the edge.
No wall,
there.
absolutely.
No wall there, no. Now we've gone on to his studio down by the stream.
I wonder what he's painting there. We can't see.
Well, he's painting, there's a pool with some little trout in it, and I think he's painting across there. The little girl, I don't know who that is.
The green dress, or perhaps green dress.
It wasn't my mother or sister, because they would have been older than that then. Now that's my mother. I think there's not much question about it. She had this dark black hair and used to part it in the middle the way the girls did at that time so much there. But that's her, definitely.
And so what's it like to see her suddenly?
Well, it's amazing. Amazing, isn't it, after all this time? I mean, she was brought up here and, well, born here, died here. So she's associated definitely with Lamorna. Yeah.
What intrigues me, Lamorna was a very successful artist, often in London. Produced, I think, like 20,000 works, I've read somewhere.
Yes.
I mean, to have met him would have been quite a difficult thing to achieve, really. Do you know anything about possible relationships?
I don't know about any relationship there.
But just to turn up and to grab a shot would have been pretty impossible, wouldn't it? Because your grandfather was very busy and
he always had an eye for the business and the publicity end of it there, you know, and I wouldn't be surprised if he thought, oh, well, why not a little publicity?
Could be no more than that, a bit of fortuitous timing. Yeah. The other thing that just strikes me, offers a bit of a clue meeting Lamorna for the first stage of this journey, kind of inspiration that helps us to understand a little bit about the way Claude chose his locations later on. He's trying to, in his own way, using his colour process, to paint this beautiful picture of Britain. The next location in Claude's film was unidentified. The shot showed a busy, slightly ramshackle farmyard. Adam had suggested that it looked like Beaulay Farm, just a mile up the road, run by the Eddy family. Hello.
Hello.
I'm looking for the exact spot where this was filmed in 1924.
That's my grandfather there.
Really?
Yeah. You could tell by his size and his build, yes.
My goodness, they look like you. You look rather similar, you chaps.
We do, yeah.
Twins, so twins, are
yeah. And that one there is my father, standing outside the gatepost.
Incredible. So, how long has your family been here?
5 generations.
Right.
Yeah, so we've been here quite a while.
And your father, so your father and grandfather, what were their names then?
My grandfather was Alfred, and my father was Alfred.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so...
Alfred, what are you, Alfred?
No, but my brother was Alfred.
Phew, that's a relief. I like the Hasty tradition's broken. Amazing. But something else puzzles me. The name Lamorna Birch. That means anything to you? Because Claude filmed Lamorna's house down the road on the Cove. The archive jumps from his house to here. Any reason for one after the other?
Yeah, he used to stay here.
Lamorna?
Yeah, Lamorna, yes. Lamorna Birch. Lamorna Birch.
Oh, OK. Fascinating. It helps me sort of understand what Claude was up to. So often in his archive, we see places that no real rhyme or reason for them. I mean, why this farm? Why not another? But now it's like fitting the piece of jigsaw together. Having come here, met you, now found this out, I can see why he filmed this farm, because obviously he must have met Lamorna down there. Lamorna must have said, oh, come and see this beautiful farm where I stayed as a young man. That's right. Brought him up here. Claude must have stood over there and made the film with Lamorna next to him. Right, God, how interesting. Yeah. I'd arrived just before milking time. The Eddy brothers had switched from the colourful brown Guernsey cows that Claude had filmed to black and white Friesians, because this breed produces more milk. And in spite of all the current farming regulations, life is easier for the twins than it was for their grandfather. That'll keep you busy for a bit, won't it?
Yeah, a couple hours work.
A couple hours. Good fresh milk. Oh, a bit tasty. Claude and his friend Robin now set off in earnest, leaving Land's End and the southern tip of Cornwall behind. But for Claude, this tour wasn't just a romantic drive in the country. It was a commercial exercise, as shown by the slick publicity pamphlets he produced. And because his novel process favoured reds and greens, Claude cleverly made sure that the car he and his friend were driving was green. The colour of the car is a bit of a mystery. Vauxhall D-types were available only in black, grey, blue or khaki. But the car Claude drove was definitely green. You can see that in the publicity pamphlets he printed for the open road. A green Vauxhall driving through the landscape. So I suppose Claude, ever persuasive, got Robin to spray the car green. They pursued their journey onwards, filming the sights of St Michael's Mount and St Ives, and on into rural Devon. Claude planned to show his footage as 10-minute films in 26 separate episodes, to be shown before the main cinema feature. Movie-going was booming, with millions of people flocking into 4,000 new cinemas across Britain. Captions were used to identify locations. Sometimes they were just jolly comments. But now they seem a little pretentious or even snobbish. Claude's shots are carefully set up, often composed like a still photograph. Sometimes they are peaceful landscapes. In others, he captures lyrical glimpses of everyday life. In the mid-1920s, audiences watched their movies in black and white. Filmmakers were racing to create films in colour. A few colour movies had been shown in specialist cinemas, but none had reached a mass audience until now. So Claude's aim was to bring colour to every cinema in the country. What's interesting is the actual technique Claude used. The films were shot in black and white negative. Colour was then reintroduced by making a positive print from the negative, and on this positive alternate frames were tinted mechanically. And one has a rather lurid looking object here. One has a bluey green frame, and then next to it a strong red and then a bluey green again. Now this is the magical part. When this coloured positive was shown at a fast speed, indeed a speed faster than most projectors were running at the time, the images combined through the eye and the brain, through the mechanics of the brain really, to create the illusion of a natural, full coloured world. Amazing really. And Claude said that this film would work in any cinema, providing that cinema had a projector that could run at a faster than usual speed. And of course that for Claude was a very powerful pitch, sales pitch for his colour process. However, it was a tricky process, and for audiences at the time, we think the end result might have looked rather like this. For us nowadays, it's not that easy to watch. But with modern-day printing technology, the British Film Institute, who carefully preserved and stored Claude's archive, has succeeded in making this much more watchable version. Claude Frieze Greene was only 26 when he started filming The Open Road, but had been messing about with film technology for several years. His fascination with film started from boyhood and was spurred on by his father, William Frieze Greene, a famous maverick inventor working at the dawn of moving pictures. After returning home from the trenches of the First World War, Claude married his childhood sweetheart, Chrissy, and worked for pioneering aerial photography companies with his war friends. There he made his first experimental travelogue, called Across England in an Aeroplane. He tried to get colour in by tinting the film, and aimed at creating an epic movie about Britain, the country he had fought for, inspired by patriotic ideals of a romantic, beautiful land. He returned to these themes for his far more ambitious Open Road project. Claude left Cornwall behind, having started at Land's End. He had visited Lamorna, St Michael's Mount and St Ives, and was now reaching Plymouth. After showing off the First World War battleships working out of Devonport's naval base, Claude found an even more suitable subject. He captured the lively goings-on in the ladies' bathing pool. In his publicity material, he boasted that the Pilgrim Fathers would be shocked if they could see the natural colour bathing beauties. And of course he filmed on the famous Hoe, where Sir Francis Drake had played bowls. In Claude's day, bowling would have been exclusive to men. Today I found some ladies.
Put your left leg forward. Right arm, left leg. You're right.
That one?
That's right,
Yes.
yeah. Step forward with that one in bowl.
With this one?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Right. As you step, you bowl.
Look at
That's
the
it.
jack.
A bit too much weight.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Bit too far. Thank you.
Right.
Today, hardy lady swimmers take to the open sea. But in Claude's day, the seawater bathing pool was reserved exclusively for them. As revealed by the initials on their costumes, these young women belonged to the Plymouth Corinthian Club, a local swimming organisation.
Well, that was a lovely swimming.
Brilliant. Lovely and clean and couldn't be better.
I met John Cole, whose mother had been a member of the Plymouth Corinthian Swimming Club.
This is more or less unchanged.
Yes.
The whole general configuration is as it was in the,
As
the
it
early
was,
20s.
hardly changed at all. The ladies' pool was out there, just beyond the corner.
Yeah.
You'll see that there's a piece of iron railing
That
there.
shows up in,
It shows up in the
footage,
in the picture.
archive.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
I have to say that I'm slightly surprised just how lively, clearly, they were.
So do you think one of these young ladies is your mother?
Yes, there she is, the lady in the back of your picture there.
Oh.
She's been about 22, I think. It is clearly her, because there she is there.
Oh, yes. Very
is-
distinctive face. Yes, this rather strong jaw.
She was called Beulah Daisy Evangeline Burgoyne.
God, how
As a
wonderful.
mother.
And so, Beulah,
Beulah
Daisy.
Daisy Evangeline Burgoyne.
How charming.
So what was she like as a character?
She was very determined about what she saw as right and wrong. Gutsy. You know, you don't get to win the breakwater swim at the age of 13 for nothing.
Breakwater swim.
That's out there, 3 miles.
3 miles?
3 miles out there.
Lord, how old? 13?
13, yes.
Good heavens, no. Obviously brave, physically strong.
Yes.
Mentally too.
Yes, she was a forceful, forthright, but God-fearing woman. I think that she was a leader amongst this gathering of women.
Here's your mother with 3 other young ladies all dressed up in their swimming costumes. It seemed to be enjoying the freedom they would not have enjoyed even a decade earlier, I suppose.
Well, of course, it's post-World War I. They were shorter men. They had more personal freedom. They just won the vote. And it was just before the major depression hit. So a little golden moment.
The Barbican area is at the heart of Old Plymouth, and the place where the Mayflower set sail for the New World in the 17th century. When Claude filmed here, it was home to a thriving fishing community. You can see the nets drying on the cobbles. But I'm having trouble finding the exact location of this shot.
I know I'm in roughly the right place here, because certainly elements survive. We seem to have cobble street, curved pavement, the granite bollard still there. All of this matches pretty exactly, actually, the image that Claude filmed. What has changed, though, is that there's an amazing colonnaded building there in Claude's picture, and a row of warehouses going out to the left. But they've gone, all of them have gone. I'm a bit confused, I must admit, but I think probably the answer is to go and ask the nearest pub.
My visit to the pub turns out to be more than just an excuse for a drink.
Hello. Hi there. I'd love a pint of Doom Bar Bitter.
I was in luck. The pub walls were lined with early photographs.
This photograph's absolutely wonderful. It's all like a jigsaw puzzle. Bits are coming together. I can see
the colonnaded building in all its glory full height, and behind it, not shown in Claude's film, is this building, which is indeed the Admiral McBride, the pub I'm in now, standing back behind the colonnaded building. Now, the landlord here tells me that this whole colonnaded building was demolished in the late 1930s, probably 1938, as part of a slum clearance policy. At the same time, the population of the Barbican, sort of close-knit but rather tough community, they were being moved out. So Claude, if by chance, caught a moment of social change, this old community about to go, this wonderful block of buildings about to be demolished. I realised that pictures of the time could help me get a much richer impression of the places Claude filmed. So I popped into Terry Daniels' postcard shop. I'm looking for historic images of the past. I mean, specifically, I suppose, initially this area, sort of Cornwall, Devon area, I suppose about 80 years ago, that sort of
Right,
date.
well, a lot of these postcards are about that time.
Yeah.
There are boxes of those down here, and they're marked,
Right.
the markers.
St Michael's Mount, Penzance, yes. And so when did sort of, I mean, these postcards are amazing. When did the whole thing start? Because they're such fantastically useful documents now. But I mean, these are about, I say...
Well, they came into their own about 1900, 1901 in a big way. People used the postcard then as we use a telephone today.
Of course, I suppose, and post was quite rapid, wasn't it?
Oh, yes, it was. Because they had 2 or 3 deliveries in the post, and they
Yes.
posted it in the morning if it was local, and they get it, you know...
Same day?
Same day.
Amazing.
Yeah. When they first started, they had what they call an undivided back, and they were only supposed to write the address on that undivided back, no message.
Well, the post office couldn't sort of, read the address if they'd written the address and a message on the back.
That's right.
I see.
But it wasn't allowed because it was the only what they would get for a halfpenny would be just that.
An image and the address.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
then the divided back comes in.
Yeah, then the divided back comes in. They allowed it. Yeah.
How do you think these photographic artists chose the particular views of the often picturesque locations?
Well, I mean, what you've got there is a place in Torquay called Cockington Forge.
Yeah. What strikes me, 3 different postcards, all showing exactly that view.
Yeah.
But I wondered whether those were kind of a checklist of things that these guys were meant to achieve, picturesque thatched cottages or horses and that sort of
yeah,
thing.
the more they could get in of that,
Yeah.
that would add to the postcard.
Yeah. What's fascinating is that this viewpoint, showing the forge and so on, is exactly the viewpoint that Claude films from. So I suppose one can sort of speculate that he's using postcards to help him choose the best locations. These are the films Claude shot of Cockington, a tiny traditional village, extremely popular as a rural holiday jaunt from next door Torquay. Claude captured holidaymakers enjoying themselves in a charabanc, all dressed up. These 2 young women seem to be parading for Claude's camera, as do the cows. Today, not much has changed. Tourists arrive in a shuttle bus rather than a charabanc for the day trip.
Yes.
We tracked down a woman called Pat Williams, who recognised one of the flapper girls in Claude's film. So here we see, this is actually Claude's car coming down the road in front of us.
Yes.
Now, it says, the village as it is. This is Claude's caption, rather odd caption, because it is indeed. Here we go.
Yes.
2 young
charabanc and
ladies.
2 young ladies. That's my mother, and that's Helen, our friend.
That's a big charabanc, and that's your mother.
Yes. Look at her posing. Oh dear.
How do you know it's your mother? It's 80 years ago, and she was,
Oh, I
fleeting
know.
moment.
I have a photograph of her that Helen took.
Helen
In
being
that.
the companion,
other
so the
girl.
2
Yes,
girls.
Yes, they're best friends.
Incredible. And so they okay. That with the parasol, which is this black and white. It's obviously
Yes.
the same sort of Japanese.
And the hat with the little red ribbon round
The
it.
hat,
white hat, red ribbon, you say. Yes, you see it there. And
Red
the
parasol.
which she's holding up behind her here. So your mother in the Vauxhall with a young man who may or may not be Claude.
And I think Helen must have taken the photograph.
But how on earth were they together, your mother and Helen, her friend, with Claude and his friend, alone in this car in this
yes.
village? Big car.
Big car.
So?
Very impressive. No, what happened was every year, without fail, her parents came to Torquay for a holiday.
Right.
And sometimes she would come, sometimes she came with a friend. And Helen was her bosom friend then. And they were walking on the promenade in Torquay.
Yeah.
And mother and father were behind.
Yeah.
This open tourer stopped, and a young man leapt out, and he said, "I wonder if I could ask you two young ladies to come with me to Cockington village." Well,
Bit cheeky.
Yeah, they sort of, pardon. And then he said, "I wish to take a cine film of you." Well, I think while they were digesting this rather unusual chat-up line, my grandfather asked what was going on, and then this guy said, "Well, my name's Claude FRIESE GREENE, and I want to take some cine film of the young girls." So my grandfather was absolutely potty about cinematography.
Oh.
He thought it was wonderful. And so he said, "Take them."
They're yours.
They're yours.
For the afternoon.
So they said, "Well, we'll bring them back, but we'll give them to you first."
Yeah.
So that's what they did, and that's how they ended up doing this in Cockington village.
Amazing. It's always a bit risky. I thought, okay, 1925, roaring 20s,
yes,
but the parents
No,
knew.
well, they had a wonderful time. They just thoroughly enjoyed themselves. And I mean, you can see her look. She's
Happy.
posing, you know.
But it's wonderful, this sort of parasol. It
Yes,
looks
and I can remember playing with it when I was a child.
And was it that colour?
Yes, red. And it was painted. You can't see the painting, but it's on the outside. You could see. I think you can just see little splodges.
Right.
There's flour.
I must say, the clothes are spectacular.
They used to make a lot of their own clothes.
They made their own clothes?
Oh, yes.
So your mother and her friend would dress like this most of the time? On holiday?
They dress very well.
So did your mother have any memories of Claude?
Not really. You know, she said they were charming. I think they were a little overwhelmed because I don't think anybody they knew had ever done anything like this.
Oh my goodness, sorry, but a picturesque moment. This is the Claude moment. It's sort of
Oh,
red
yes,
horse,
look at
which
you.
is perfect.
Absolutely
Carriage
gorgeous.
was almost green, well, bluey green. They're wearing green.
They're wearing green.
But they're only 80 years too late, otherwise Claude would be sort of ecstatic about this. This is a... Towards Britain, it's still alive and well in Cockington.
Isn't it?
Lovely. I set off to Torquay to see where Claude had been filming and picking up young women. The Victorian Health Resort advertised itself like this: "To the tired, jaded and weary worker, no place can be more inviting than Torquay, offering soft sunshine, pure water and pure air." Many holidaying families took a train for their annual week's break, while others were summer day trippers. In those days, ordinary working people couldn't afford to go on holiday abroad. There were no cheap flights. Indeed, most people didn't have paid holidays, but they would put their money into holiday clubs, and when the time came round, they would go on holiday in places like this, by the British seaside. Indeed, the number of people taking a truly British holiday doubled between 1920 and the Second World War. And Torquay was one of the most popular southern resorts in the 1920s, along with Brighton and Eastbourne.
Claude was obviously rather taken with these dolls and didn't leave Torquay empty-handed. I left Cockington and Torquay behind me and headed on up the coast towards little seaside resorts like Dawlish. I had covered 100 miles already, but over 1,500 lay ahead on Claude's mammoth tour.
Claude's journey by car really was quite extraordinary for the mid-20s. Cars had been used for touring since the 1890s, but they were still rather unreliable and, to be quite honest, rather dangerous. So I'm full of admiration for Claude, and I suppose, in a way, with his car loaded with spare tyres and spare fuel, it's rather like driving through Africa now in a Jeep, his journey from Land's End to John O'Groats. It's quite hard to drive by modern standards anyway. Quite dangerous, really. There's no foot brake, for example, just a sort of handbrake and a little foot brake that slows you down. It's heavy steering, no indicators, and no rear mirror actually. A bit dodgy too. You've got to prime the engine with a pump, amazing. So that's altogether quite hard work for Claude. And if your own car didn't get you, then other drivers could. There was no driving test in 1935, so any maniac could be on the road mowing you down.
Dawlish had been a favourite haunt of Jane Austen and Charles Dickens, who admired the formal gardens built on the banks of Dawlish water. But by Claude's day, the resort had become lower budget, great for day trippers using the excellent rail link from Exeter. After Dawlish, Claude headed into the heart of Devon. None of Claude's captions identify the location of these farming shots, but you can just make out the lettering on the card, spelling E. Budley. East Budley is a tiny village near Exeter, and there we managed to track down long-time resident Frank Farr, who was just 6 years old when Claude filmed there.
Gosh.
Morning, sir.
Morning. Good to meet you.
And you, sir.
Wonderful things you've got here, your stall.
Well, it's got a bit of all sorts, like, you know.
Yeah, but look at this, vegetables and...
most of it's own grown, organic grown, you know. There's too much of this artificial, to my way of thinking today, you know.
Absolutely.
Well, you don't know what you can consume in it. There's 9 big greenhouses up there. Go on, travel.
I might have to. Pull through here, you
Come
feel
in,
going.
Come in, have a look.
Hello.
Oh, there's the ferrets in there.
Ferrets?
Right. Hey, come on, Jim, lad. There you are. That's Jim.
I'll get hold of Jim.
Yeah. There's Ada.
It's a lovely colour.
Yeah, that's his. This is his missus, Ada.
They don't bite.
No, no.
Bite rabbits.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they won't harm me.
But these are kind of working animals. You use these
to
get rabbits.
Yeah.
You put them down the rabbit hole and then net them.
Put the nuts over them.
And then eat the rabbits, I suppose.
True. He likes beer.
Sensible fellow.
Yeah. Tries to drink. He got to have a drink. Come on, give me a kiss. Oh. All right.
It's not in the mood.
Can't give you no supper tonight.
So I say you've been here for, well, actually, say 50 years.
Well, you know everybody from the top of the village to the bottom.
Yeah.
Now I would know 95% of them here.
When were you born? Which year?
1919.
1919?
Yeah.
Well, I've got a bit of film I want to show you, which was shot when you were about 5 or 6 years old, I suppose. And I'd love you, if I can show you the film, to tell me who the men are, what they're doing. If you come out here, I'll take you to my my magic machine.
Yeah, all right. Okay, all right, we better look at that.
This is the field.
Yeah, this is the field.
Has it changed much in 80 years, actually?
Oh, yeah, well, of course, like I say, the hedges have been knocked down.
The hedges?
And the road was widened, you see.
Yeah.
And the gateway we used to come in was further over there.
So gates moved, the roads widened, and the hedges have gone over there, I suppose.
There was hedge up through there, see.
This is a little wood?
That's a Tidwell wood.
Mate, shall we have a look at the pictures now? I'll get it so we can see it. Can you see that? There we are.
Yeah.
So this is a cart, hay wain. You've got a horse drawing it.
Yeah.
And here's a chap drinking.
Yeah, well, that's Nate Clement.
You know that man?
Yeah,
Hang on. Who?
Harvey lived only a few doors from him.
What's he called again?
Nate Clement.
And you recognise him?
Yeah, Harvey recognised him.
Do you, Harvey? You recognise him?
You recognise Nate Clement, didn't he?
Yeah. What sort of chap was he?
Well, a proper farm worker, a real horseman. Like,
horseman?
Yeah.
And so he would control the cart, but also load it? And...
Yeah, see the loading, get the butts of the sheep.
And he seems to be swigging cider in there, I suppose.
Oh, yeah, they drink a gallon a day,
Right. Pretty strong cider, was it?
Oh, it's proper farm cider. You don't want much of that. I mean, say, that there, I mean, say, well, a couple of pints of turning over nearly, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah. But presumably, I guess the cider, quenched the thirst, also gave energy, full of sugar.
Yeah, well, then they sweated it out. So they sweated it out.
He looks in his 30s or 40s here, is he? So he must be...
He'd be a bit older than that.
No, he'd be about 150 now then, wouldn't he?
Aye.
140.
Cost the country a fortune in pension, wouldn't it?
On we go.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you recognise that car?
Yeah, four-wheeled farm wagon, that is, for this part of the country.
Made locally, I suppose.
Oh, yeah, Jack Patch.
Jack Patch?
Yeah,
he was the Bewdley wheelwright.
Yeah, Jack Patch and Off Patch.
Jack Patch, that could be a Jack Patch wagon.
That was Jack Patch's wagon. Off made coffins and everything else.
Coffin maker, wagon maker, wheelwright.
Yeah.
So when a big car came through in 1924, like this big Vauxhall D-type...
Everybody turned out to see him.
It would have been quite an event.
Oh, yeah.
So there you go, it's all changed, isn't it?
You stand there and even look across at this landscape now. That hasn't changed nothing to speak of. None of that, like.
But the fields, the hedges, you say, the hedges are gone.
Nothing like that at all.
So should we walk down towards the village now? I've got a fancy drink of cider myself.
Yeah, if you want. Take the cider, we know them.
In Claude's day, Devon had 20,000 acres of apple orchards, producing thousands of gallons of cider a year, much to the envy of the people of America, where alcohol was outlawed. This jokey comment, at the expense of the new national prohibition law in the States, was therefore aimed at both American and British audiences. Romantic countryside, thatched villages, old world houses, these offered an idealised view of the homeland that many in the States had left behind. Then as now, the US moving picture industry dominated the world market, and Claude planned to sell these films of a beautiful country overseas as well as in Britain. So in 1924, Claude broke off his journey and sailed to New York to present his FRIESE screen colour film process with his business manager, Stuart Johnston. They had grand plans to sell the US rights. In New York Town Hall, using colour images of the famous American movie star, Miss Hope Hampton, as well as sections from the open road, Claude demonstrated his system to the movie trade. He had already ambitiously sold the rights to Italy, India, Norway and Sweden. Claude's films hit the headlines as a great success, and as ever, he was on the lookout for extra selling points. He filmed the tourist sites of London, knowing that the famous scenes would appeal to audiences all around the globe. Once he got back on the road in the borrowed Vauxhall, Claude resumed his journey through Devon towards Exmoor along the River Exe. Just a few miles from Dulverton is Winsford, a village famous for its hunting traditions. As we can see when Claude filmed here, this very spot was thronging with riders, excited by the prospect of a good day's hunting. They rode with the Devon and Somerset staghounds, who for 150 years have been hunting wild red deer over 1,500 square miles of moorland and woodland. At this autumn meet, they were hunting a stag, the females being only hunted in the winter. The Devon and Somerset staghounds still hunt today, but rarely gather around the Winsford Memorial anymore. Their numbers are far fewer than in Claude's time, but they still meet 3 times a week in season, despite the new hunting legislation. One of the oldest members of the hunt is Dick Lloyd, who's been riding for over 70 years.
I think the last time that you came was when...
Dick's father, Ned Lloyd, was secretary of the hunt in the mid-1920s.
The Zimmer frames to be left at the door.
I met Dick and his friend Anne Labar after Dick had spent 8 hours in the saddle. For decades, Anne's family has kept records of each season's activities.
My grandfather always wrote up a hunting diary. Quite a number of members of the hunt have done so.
This is amazing. Is there a picture of you in here?
Yes, my grandfather's groom was rather concerned my leg wasn't in a very good position. It was the first time I was put on.
Good heavens.
There you are, 17 months old.
This is what made this is wonderful. And,
And this is the account of the hunt.
So this is the day that we think it was.
That's right.
Yeah, you are. It's summer 25.
25.
It was a lovely day, but such a rabble.
Yes.
No words can describe.
Yeah.
From 400 to 300
400, yes,
people.
yes.
Got some rather interesting footage of the hunt. And maybe you can identify some of the people in those days. Do you
Unfortunately, it's
think?
very hard to tell because most of them are back views.
Now, this is the key one because I want to know who some of these people.
This is the one that we
Yes.
think's Dad. Yeah, there he is. That's Dad on the grey horse. Yes.
Yes.
Certainly.
He had a thing, but he didn't have a right arm. Is that
That's right.
correct?
Yes.
Yes.
You can see there that his sleeve is hanging down by his...
This one.
Yes.
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 And this proves it to me because he used to have his reins joined up so that he could drop them and pick them up again.
Indeed. And
And
there's
there
the
it
little
is. There's the
strap
joint.
that held
And
him.
there you can see it here. So he's got his
Yes.
whip in his left hand. He's
Yes.
riding, using obviously left hand holding the rein and
That's right.
same horse.
He lost his right arm in France in 1916. It's very intriguing for me to see that all those years ago.
And your father is wearing a red coat.
Because he was secretary.
Okay, yes.
And field master too, which
Yes.
took
Yes,
you
yes,
had
he
to
was.
be visible because there were about 500
Right.
people, and they took some controlling sometimes.
Being
they got
visible is
excited.
important.
Yes.
So here we see gathering by the War Memorial. I'm interested in the clothes actually. So
Yeah.
what is she wearing? A soft hat?
She's
and-
riding side saddle. You see,
Oh,
no, she's got
side
a
saddle,
she's
of
got a
course, yes.
bowler hat on.
Interesting, different sort of hats in particular, hard hats, soft hats, bowler hats.
Yeah,
Women
well-
with fashionable sort of slouch hats. I mean, what's it? What's it?
But by ancient tradition here, the members of the field, that's us, wear a bowler hat. Man or woman wear a bowler hat. And the only people allowed to wear a hunting cap, as we call, are the staff and the masters and the secretary. They wear
Later
a red
on.
coat.
Yeah, that's right.
Or you see Mrs. Scott today, as a lady master wears a blue coat with a red collar. Traditionally, English lady masters very seldom wear a red coat. Now, there's this, what I call safety nonsense, when they wear the awful safety hats.
The plastic kind of jockey
with the
hats.
chin.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't have been acceptable here before the war.
This is Hark, forward, so this is now meant to be...
That would probably be when they'd laid the pack on.
I suppose that the idea is to find a stag which is right to cull.
You don't hunt necessarily the finest, best-looking stag. You hunt the oldest you can find.
Yeah.
Because it's like culling out of a herd of cattle. You don't keep a bull going for, well, more than 3 or 4 years because he starts breeding with these children.
Yeah. So you've got a stag today. How is the animal killed now? I mean,
With a gun.
Was that always the case?
No. No, up until 1929, it was always with a knife. And as I've killed, never afraid of saying, I've killed deer with a knife. And if you know what you're doing, it's just about as sharp and lethal as a shot.
While the changes in the hunting law were thought to affect many people whose livelihoods rely on hunting, the reality for stag hunters is turning out to be rather different than expected.
We thought no hunting meant no hunting. But then we hadn't read the Act.
Yeah.
Then we didn't know what the Act was going to say, or bill then. So when the Act came, picture changed entirely.
Because you're not allowed to use more than one couple of hounds at once.
Today's meat was perfectly legal. You could flush a deer. That's flush. Not our expression. That's what Blair likes. You flush it with 2 hounds, and you hunt it, and you shoot it as soon as possible.
Right.
So far, it's working extremely well.
Driving over the wilds of stag hunting territory made me reflect on the continuity of some rural traditions. I reached the northern rim of Exmoor, an unspoilt countryside full of literary associations.
So here we are, outside what we now know to be All Church, which was an important location in the book Lorna Doone. Lorna Doone was an immensely popular Victorian novel written by R.D. Blackmore, and the action was set here in the late 17th century.
The novel is a near-tragic romance whose tumultuous plot is bolstered by the dramatic locations in this Exmoor valley. At the climax, Lorna is getting married to the hero in this very church when something dreadful happens. Darling eyes, the clearest eyes, the loveliest, the most loving eyes. The sound of a shot rang through the church, and those eyes were dim with death.
At that time, people went to see places mentioned in popular novels in the same way as people now go to see locations that feature in television programmes and in big-budget movies.
The first romantic encounter between Blackmore's hero and heroine took place here at Badgeworthy Water, about a mile from All Church. By the side of the stream, she was coming to me, even among the primroses, as if she loved them all. My heart so awoke and trembled. Claude was not the only one profiting from Doone country fame. The local farmers were already cashing in by offering literary tours to visitors with a romantic bent, an early type of package holiday.
What happened was this. Visitors, mostly from London or Bristol, would get a train to Minehead, and then the landlady, the farmer's wife, would go and collect them from the station in a horse and trap. It's about 18 miles away, I think. Bring them back here, and then for an all-in fee, they would get accommodation, food, lovely tea like this, transport, and charabancs around the area to look at sights of the Doone country.
Charabancs were, in fact, one of the most popular ways of taking a holiday jaunt. After the First World War, the military had released hundreds of surplus vehicles, which were converted into a great range of open-topped people carriers. The geological marvels of Cheddar Gorge proved a popular excursion, often combined with a trip to the unchanging tranquility of Wells Cathedral City. In Bath, only two things took Claude's fancy: the grandeur of the Roman baths and goldfish. Extraordinarily, it seems he took no other shots of the beautiful Georgian city, possibly because film stock was so expensive and the pale Bath stone would hardly show off his colour process. On his way to his final destination in the southwest, Claude came across an unexpected delight. This pageant is a fantastic mix of the traditional and the topical, with chickens and young princes marching alongside X-ray calling with her antenna, maybe a reference to the recent BBC mass radio launch.
She means the world and all to me, that is true.
Fancy dress parades were extremely popular, ever since Queen Victoria and Albert started dressing up their children half a century ago.
My extraordinary gal.
Costumes for outfits like this French chef were found in fancy dress catalogues. While a geometric symbol of the rising sun was a well-known Art Deco motif, particularly used in posters and adverts for holiday resorts. But the most popular costume of all was a Pierrette or Pierrot, inspired by the Pierrot troupes that entertained seaside crowds. And innocently blacked up, this little girl looks like she has stepped straight out of a schoolbook illustrating peoples of exotic lands. Back in less exotic lands, my final West Country destination was Weston-super-Mare. Here on Weston's beachfront, Claude filmed children having more relaxed fun, trotting along on donkey rides or in horse and traps. There are far fewer donkeys working on the sands today, but they are still being run by the same family, the Trapnell clan.
We need some lollies this side, Helen, because we haven't got any this side now.
Lorraine keeps an eye on her donkeys from her beachside stall.
Lorraine, how long have your family run donkeys on the beach here?
I think it's probably about 100 years. My father is nearly 80, and I think he was about 12, 13 when he first started his own team of donkeys. Right. But my grandfather had pony carriages, which were very popular then because the ladies in their dresses used to ride on them. So we've always been horsey, donkey people.
You're always on this bit of the beach?
Always on this bit of the beach. This is the main bit of the beach, right. Yeah.
I wonder if you could help me interpret this film shot on this beach about 80 years ago.
Wow.
Look at this.
By the looks of it, we've got pony carts here and we've got lots of donkeys. It all looks very, very familiar. The carriages are a little different to what we have now, and they're dressed very smartly in his waistcoat and his bowler hats. Years ago, there would be 6 pony carriages working. There would be 3 teams of donkeys on each little, we call them pitches. Now, of course, we don't need as many, but they're still really popular. The children love them.
So what was Weston like when Claude was making this film?
Much busier. People came in by the train loads, by the boats, huge paddle steamers, and the beach by 1 o'clock, you would hardly find a place to sit. Of course, now it's different. It's different.
Claude filmed Britain at a moment of dramatic change. Customs, traditions, old ways of life were eroding. The wheelwright and the village smithy were giving way to the petrol garage and the petrol pump and the petrol attendant, all that world so familiar was about to go. And it is, of course, a strange irony that Claude would have used a car to record the beauties of Britain when the car and the road were about to compromise, even destroy those very beauties. I suppose Claude, rattling through the countryside in his mighty Vauxhall Tourer, would have seemed to many to be the symbol of change, the agent of the new world of the motor car.
Next time